Well, welcome back to Mr. Obsolete's Finished Homesteading. Today's video will be part 2 on hatchets. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to talk about handle maintenance. And then the second part of that will be sharpening. So we've got 3 different ones. This one just needs a mild sharpening. This one a medium. And this one needs a face cut completely to reshape it because it's got a bad edge on it from the factory. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go out and take some of the varnish off this handle. You can see that there's varnish up here, but it's been worn off here. And I've used this hatchet a lot, and it had a tremendous amount of use before I got it because, you know, there's a chip in the top here, right there. And then the pole is kind of beaten over, so it's been pounded on quite a bit over the years. Filed some of that back. And this one also, the pole's been beat on. There, I have ground it back a little bit, and of course this is brand new. So anyway, what we're going to do is go out and take the varnish off this. And what we'll be using is our old knife here that I inherited from my friend. He used to use this for cutting up fish. And when he got to the point he wasn't mobile anymore, he gave this to me along with many other good things. This is a terrible looking old piece, but this holds an edge better than any knife I've ever owned. It's high carbon steel. So I'll just give it a little teeny touch up too, and then we'll start cleaning them up. Okay, well, the first thing we're going to do is put a real light sharpening on this knife here, just a finishing touch. And we'll be using our Lansky puck here. I've got the oil on it, and it's on the fine side. They have a coarse grit and a fine grit. So we'll get that set up. And do it. So anyway, what we're going to do now, this is a keen cutter. It has the handle that came off a shovel, I believe, and it's really heavily varnished. So we'll come over and take a close-up of that. Then we use this, and what we'll do is we'll just put it on here and just draw this down here like that, and you can see how easily it takes that off. Okay, you can see I've scraped a few rows here of the varnish off. So you can see how fast that goes. So we're not going to finish this because we're not going to use this handle, but anyway, you can see what a nice transition that makes. So this one, most of the varnish is up here high up, because down here where your hand is, like I say, this thing has a lot of use, and that stuff has just been removed over the years by friction. See how much nicer that is? There's a nice transition. You can see there's the varnish where it's stripped off. Well, the next thing we're going to do is do a sharpening. This one just needs a very light sharpening. So I'll be right back. Okay, like I say, this is just going to be a fine touch-up, so we're going to use the coarse side with oil on it first. Okay, well, we got flipped over and start on the other side. And I'm going to flip the stone over to the fine side. You can hear the difference in that. That's nice and smooth, and the other side's kind of rough sounding. And when you get down to the point where it doesn't make much noise, you know you got a pretty sharp edge there, like right there. Sounds pretty good. Yeah, it's nice and sharp. So the last thing we're going to do this is our leather strop, and you use these type of compounds. They come in different coarseness. This is medium, and so it's got a pretty good layer on there already, so we'll just put a little bit more on here. And what you want to do is just, what that does when you grind it with a stone, it leaves a little tiny thin layer of metal sticking out, and this will polish it right off. There again, you can tell by the sound. It's almost not making any noise anymore. Then you know that you've got that little curl of metal off there. You get a nice sharp edge. Perfect. So the next one we're going to do here is going to require a little more work. So what we're going to do is use files on that, because there's a little bit of roughness on the edge. So I have two files here. This is a little bit coarser. This is a little finer cut. So anyway, so we can see there's about a 1/16 of an inch back. That'll give us a nice edge. We can leave that chip in there, and there's a little tiny one right here we won't worry about, but anyway. Now we'll go to the fine one. See how much difference that sounds and makes. That just really puts a nice polish on it. Okay, we'll flip it over and do the same to the other side here. See that nice fine edge there. Now we'll use the stone. Looking good. You know, these have a taper on them. A lot of times it's about 22.5 degrees on most common. There are different angles for different uses, but how you determine that is watch the cut. So if you start out and it's too flat, it won't cut on the outer edge here, and then if it's too much, it'll just cut on the outer edge. So you just have to watch your line here, and that'll let you know. So now we'll go to the fine side here. That sounds pretty good already. A little rougher on the top here, a little more needs to be taken off. That sounds really good. Sounds good. You can see that nice fine edge, a little whiter down here. Needed a little more cut off because it's rough. This side here, same thing, a little more here. But anyway, we'll just use our strop here. Really good. It's nice for this stuff too when you have a real high quality steel in these vintage stuff. The new stuff isn't there as good, but anyway, these stones have been around for a really long time, and like I say, it's got a coarse side and a smooth side, a soft side. There's a different style here. These work better for knives, and there again you get a really smooth side here, a little bit coarser, but like if you were doing a knife, for instance, you'd be doing it like that. And nice. So anyway, I'm not going to actually treat the handles today, but I've got some wood set up, and we'll show you how we're going to treat it and what the different treatments look like. Okay, what we're going to do here, got a piece of wood. Got 4 spots here. We're going to use the different oils and talk just briefly about them. So the first one we're going to use is teak oil, and I think it works best on teak. I don't use it on my handles. I have tried it in the past, but I wasn't satisfied with the results. It kind of leaves a slick surface, doesn't seem to dry really good. And that you can see just kind of doesn't change the color of the wood or anything. And like I say, the reason I don't like it, like I say, I don't like it. Seems slick to your hand after it soaks into the wood, and then it has a lot of dryers and chemicals in it too, so you don't want to be using your hands without gloves. Okay, the next one, you have to stir these really good before you use them, which I have done. Now this is Watco. It's Danish oil, which is basically the same thing, and it has varnish in it. And so some people like using it, mostly on furniture, but on handles I don't like it so much. But put some on here. The main reason I don't like it is, it has varnish in it, and what I've found is over time the varnish builds up, dries, and then the wood doesn't soak in the oil as good. You can see it's a lot darker. And like I say, it works really best on furniture, which it was designed for. Okay, now what we have is some turpentine and some boiled linseed oil. And a lot of old timers used to mix these 50-50, and so that's what we'll do here. And the idea that the thinner will make it penetrate the wood better. I did a test quite some time ago, just kind of a rough test, and I didn't really find that to be really that true. Now, on linseed oil, there's two types. Boiled linseed, like this, has dryers and whatnot in it, and so there again, it's best not to use just on your hands. Once it soaks into the handle, it doesn't seem to be a problem. And then there's raw linseed oil, which I don't have, but it doesn't have the dryers and chemicals in it that this does, so it actually might be better. So we'll mix this up good here. Well, there's two ways to put this on. Just wipe it on. But there again, I did a test on some raw wood a while back. Watch our older videos, and finding out that when you heat this stuff, the penetration is much, much better. So I'll just put a little bit in here. And we'll light up our Coleman stove here. Vintage, of course. Okay, well, we got a little oil in here, and we'll heat this up. So this is still real wet feeling. This is semi-wet feeling. That feels pretty dry. So that's actually going in pretty good. Well, the oil's hot here, so put some on here. So we're going to let these sit, and so the next part of the video we're going to go out and sharpen this, and then when we come back we'll just take a quick look at these to see how they're doing. Okay, well, the first thing we want to do is get the stone wet here, and I use hot water because it soaks in better when they've been sitting for a long time to get pretty dried out. Well, the second thing we need to do is lubricate all the oil ports on here. Of course, we're using a vintage oil can. And then we need to put water in here and make sure that it drips out. See? Coming out. Yeah, it's a lot better, but still not real sharp. So anyway, we'll continue and be back after a bit. Okay, well, next we're going to talk about the oils that we used on this board, the stuff we're going to be using on the handles. Number one here was teak oil. It still feels kind of slimy. This one is the Watco. There again, slightly slimy, but I can feel the varnish in it. It's kind of slick. This one is the one we use turpentine and linseed oil. It feels pretty good. And we just had heated linseed oil here. It's the best by far. It feels the driest and the best finish. So that's what I think about that stuff. So I'll finish up talking about the hatchets here now. So we've got a nice edge on this. Took quite a bit of work, and the interesting thing is that different uses on these things require a different edge, and I was originally going to put a real sharp edge on this because for camping and stuff like that, that works best. But the problem is that the steel in this thing, unfortunately, for something that's semi-expensive, it's not that good. So these are supposed to be drop forged high carbon steel, and supposedly it's cast in the US. But anyway, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Hults Bruk here, the difference in the steels. It's like night and day. This stuff is the best. These others are still much better. Like I say, I put a medium sharp edge on it, and the reason I did that, and there again, if you had a really super sharp edge, because of the steel isn't that great, it wouldn't hold an edge, and so it'll dull pretty easily. But I ground most of it down with the stone, and then I did a little minor work with the files. And when I was filing it, I would leave a bunch of metal sticking out here, which means it's soft steel. And so I had to do quite a bit of work with the stones to get that off from there. And then, of course, on the leather strop to get it finished. But I'm gonna have a new name for this. And so part of the reasons that I would not buy one of these personally, you know, Snow and Neally, although it says it's all made in the US and forged and whatnot. You know, number one is the steel isn't that good, and the problem with steel today is that, you know, they'll have 1020 or 1055 or 1080, which are all high carbon steel, which are used in axes a lot, but they're made out of recycled metal. And the problem with recycled metal is that chemically it's the same, but structurally it's not near as strong as if it's made out of raw iron to begin with. And so if you have recycled metal, it's been recycled and recycled, the strength of it just keeps going down. And then the other one, of course, is the grain structure on the handle here. It's like about so, about 45 degrees, which is okay, but you know, you'd think that they would pick out a straight grain on it better. But and the other, well, the last reason why I wouldn't buy one of these is quality control, because when I first looked at it, I noticed that down here there were blowholes in the face of the hatchet here, so that's pockets where gas exploded and the metal has left little pits in it. And so, you know, after it was forged and the initial grind was put on it, they didn't catch it. Then when they sharpened it, they didn't catch it. And then when they did the finish look at it, inspection to make sure it's good to go to the customer, they missed it too. So that's inexcusable. So anyway, as usual, vintage is best for me, and everybody else can have the other stuff. So see you in the next exciting video, 2 weeks. Vintage is best.